Sir, shall we start? This 5.
Yes. We can start.
Okay, sir. Good evening, Honorable VC sir, Dr. Yelena, guest speaker for today, Dr. Yugal Kishore, Dean ICFI Law School, my faculty friends, dear students. I would like to welcome first our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, and invite him to share a couple of words of motivation with us. We have achieved one milestone
I will.
today in the evening, so I'll request him to share that with us.
Yeah.
Please,
So, a good afternoon to Ukraine, Dr. Elena, and welcome to ICFI University, Dehradun. And we are very thankful to you for accepting our invitation and be there today for the topic on the market research for entrepreneurs. And my dear colleague, Dr. Ragendra Sharma, President, IIC, and Vice President, Dr. Ankita, and Dr. Yugal Kishore, Dean, ICFI Law School, and my other faculty members and my buddy managers. I think today is a day which I wanted to share the happy news, and we are very happy that yesterday I was there in one of the conference which is organized in Korea, South Korea soil. In that conference, the conference was world ranking universities, innovative world ranking universities. It is done by the URI 2021. And I am very happy to share to everybody here that one more happy news for ICFI University at Dehradun. We have secured 34th rank out of 50 in the world in industrial application. And this is the second time we have achieved this 34th rank. And last year we had a 44th rank out of 50, top 50 in the world. And now, yesterday, it was declared as a 34th rank. And in India, only 2 universities have been participated and who have been ranked out of 50. We are number 1. And University of Delhi is number 2. This is a happy news to our guest speaker, to my faculties, my deans, and all my students. I think this is a right topic which is chosen by Dr. Elena and Dr. Sharma on the market research for entrepreneurs. As you know, the marketing research is one of the major topic in business management area, where the student should know, because nowadays, if I want to set up a company or if I want to be an entrepreneur, most of the entrepreneur does not know what is the market research and how to collect the data, how to analyze the data, and what are the techniques we have to use in the marketing research. I think this session by Dr. Elena will be more useful to all the buddy managers of ICFI business schools. With this, back to Dr. Raghvendra Sharma, please.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing words of motivation and particularly sharing this wonderful news. We have achieved, ICFI University Dehradun has achieved a lot of milestones in the past 2-3 years since you assumed the office of Vice Chancellor. Thank you very much for your guidance and support, sir. Now I would like to welcome formally our today's guest and main speaker, Dr. Yelena Prokhorova. She's a PhD and she's Associate Professor and Deputy Head of Management Department, Kyiv National Economic University, Ukraine. She's also the member of Faculty of Management Council and the university's Scientific and Methodical Council. She has expertise in business strategy, change management, and strategic management. She has developed the courses on strategic management as well in the Ukraine. Her areas of interest are process of strategy implementation, organizational culture and development. She has also participated in consulting projects to improve the efficiency of enterprises, which transfers them to the self-sufficiency. She has coordinated for strategic sessions for companies as well. She has prepared methodical recommendations and held the training for the top government managers on strategic management in the state authority at the School of Senior Civil Services Corps of the National Agency of Ukraine for civil services. We welcome you, Dr. Yelena, and we are sure that participants for this session today will have a lot of good experience, and they will have a conceptual clarity also on the market research, particularly in the context of budding managers and the entrepreneurs and early enterprises. Over to you, Dr. Yelena. You can share your slides.
Yes. Thank you very much for the invitation for this presentation. It's a great experience for me and a honor to share my experience and to discuss this topic with my colleagues and with students. Now let me show you. Do you see my presentation?
Yes, it is visible.
Oh, yes, great. About market research for entrepreneurs. What is the content? First of all, we have to answer the question, why market research is so important. Then we'll discuss environment's structure, main methods of external environment analysis and methods of industry market analysis, and finally, a few words how to use this market research to develop a successful competitive strategy. So let's start. Why market research? First of all, I have to emphasize that it is doesn't matter are you a startupper, are you if you plan to develop new business, to introduce something new, or if you are working in existing business, market research is very important because all is changes. If you enter the new business, the new industry, if you create new industry and new consumer needs, you have to analyze what could you propose, what for people, for consumers, what consumer needs you may satisfy, and finally, are there any competitors or maybe substitutes for your business services or products. The same situation with existing business. You may be very successful in your business during few years, but all is changes, and you have to make market research day by day in order to be the first who see these changes and may use these changes for your best, for the best of your business. So the main tips, what we have to analyze. First of all, we have to identify what is our own potential, what we can propose for our potential consumers, and very important, we have to propose something different or something better than other businesses and competitors may propose. Second point, we have to analyze who are our existing or potential new consumers. What are their needs? What needs we have to satisfy? And very important, what additional value we may propose for our consumers? And the third point, about our competitors analysis. We have to identify who are our competitors, what do they propose for our consumers, and what their strengths and the weaknesses of our competitors, which are existing or maybe potentially new competitors. So let's briefly discuss what are the main methods of external environment analysis. First of all, we have to identify the structure of our business environment. Traditionally, we divide all business environment in these three levels. The first level, internal, it is about our internal situation in our company. What we may do, what we may propose better than others, or maybe in a different way, comparing with other competitors in this market. And then we have two levels of external environment, task environment, or maybe as synonym, competitive environment. It is about those parts in environments, sides of environment, which are close to us and with whom we operate in our day-to-day work. It is about, of course, our employees, suppliers, customers, communities in which we operate, creditors from whom we try to get some investment for our business development. Sometimes it is about government departments, shareholders, and so on. And yes, of course, if we are working in some city or village or province or country and so on, we have a general macro business environment, which is about economic situation in our country, for example, in general. It is about GDP, GDP per capita, incomes of people who are potentially our consumers, technological situation, infrastructure in our country. Maybe some political situation may affect our day-to-day activities. And yes, of course, social and cultural issues, which may also affect our business situation. What is very important, each organization, each business works in such external environment. And yes, of course, each business has to analyze external environment. But it is very big, it is a lot of work, environmental analysis, and it is very important to identify what variables from external environment, from business environment, which variables are more important and valuable for us, and we have to put more attention for analysis of their influence on our business, and what variables are maybe not so important, or maybe we can't influence on them. So we have to work with them to get this situation with no possibility to change something. The next point, how to analyze an environment. One of the most easy method, it is about scanning environment. It is situation in which we operate in our day-to-day work. We gather information about our market, our industry from all available sources. So it is not about industrial espionage maybe, or some other methods which are not so legal. You have to use all information from your friends, from your industry partners, from maybe radio, TV, and newspapers, and so on. A few words about business environment. First of all, you have to define which factors are very important, which are vital for us. And in order to make some structure of all information, of all influences at our business, we can use some analytical methods. One of the well-known is PEST Analysis. It is about how political, economic, social, and technological issues influence our business, our situation. What I want to pay your attention. Very often, my students or entrepreneurs, business person argue nearly the next situation. If all our companies in different markets, in different industries, if we all work in one country, in the same political, economic, social, and technological situation, so PEST analysis may be done once for the whole country, and all entrepreneurs can only use this information. It is a wrong point. Why? Yes, of course. For example, if we have to analyze different businesses in the same country, in the same situation, from one point of view, yes, political, economic, social, and technological situation is the same. But in fact, you have to make this analysis not about the whole country. You have to analyze how these factors of general macro environment influence your own business. Here you can see an example of this analysis, which was developed for the internet market of organic food. So what I want to comment in this example. For example, GDP dynamics. Yes, of course, it is the same for all businesses in this country. Political situation is the same. But next points which we analyzed, I have to put your attention that they are focused on the situation on this market, organic food internet shop business. For example, what is market dynamics, which is predicted for this industry? For example, state regulation, not economics at all, but state regulation in this particular industry. Tax legislation, not all the country, but what is about this business. Very often we use export-import operations for organic food delivery. So we have to learn to study this situation with export-import operations. Legislation which regulates the activities of online stores, and so on. So courier delivery. If it is online market, yes, of course, they use courier delivery. So we have to analyze the situation, economic situation in courier delivery too. So I want to pay your attention again PEST analysis is a well-known instrument. Many companies use it, but please do not do this mistake. Don't think that PEST analysis is the same for all businesses. It has to be focused on your industry, on your market. You have to analyze which variables from this environment affects personally your business, market, and industry. And there are a lot of different methods how to conduct this PEST analysis. Generally, the main idea, you have to make a list of factors or variables which are important and which may influence your business as in positive, so in negative way. It is the first step. You have to complete 4 lists about political, economic, social, and technological situation generally in your environment in which you have your business. Then it's very strongly recommended to assess, evaluate all these factors. This form of this table is widely used in business analysis, in market analysis, when it is proposed to weight all these factors. The total weight is equals to 1. You have to know, to identify what factors are more valuable, more influenceable on your business activities, and which are less. Then you have to assess each of these factors. For example, 1, it is very weak influence, and for example, 5, it is very strong influence. Then you calculate multiply your weight on estimation, and you have finally for each of variables, you have this weighted assessment mark. And then you may use this assessment analysis to make some conclusions. Which variables are more weighted, more important, influence your business in the most mode, and which are less important. And first of all, it is only the first step when you make lists of variables and try to assess them. And of course, the next step, you have to plan some actions. What to do to use all the positive possibilities in order to make your business stronger, to use environmental variables for the better of your business. And if there are any threats for your business, you have to think what to do with this negative influence, how to minimize this negative influence, or maybe to avoid them, or so on. So it is about PEST analysis of general business environment for your business. Then about any prognosis and forecasts about future development of your market, of your industry. Nevertheless, if you want to enter the new business, or if you want to develop your existing business, you have to try to predict situation for the few years or for another period time ahead. What will be market trends? How will be changed situation in general in your industry or market? How may be changed the needs of your consumers, and how may be changed the actions of your competitors? Yes, of course, each business, each entrepreneur has to do all of his best in order to predict situation for the next period of time. As usual, we use forecasts and scenarios development, scenario planning. Very interesting situation about scenario planning. Michael Porter, a famous specialist and author at business strategy and competitive strategy, he proposed for each business to develop minimum 5 to 6 different scenarios. What is the future development of your industry, of your market? In reality, for example, in my country, in Ukraine, traditionally, entrepreneurs develop only 3 scenarios, optimistic, pessimistic, and something in the middle, if we name it realistic scenario. What is the main idea of scenario development, scenario planning? You make some predictions about future situation development in your industry, optimistic, pessimistic, and something in the middle. You put this information input in your scenario planning, and it is only the first step. First step in scenario planning, you have to predict some situations as inputs for your scenario development. The second step, and in fact it is the task of scenario development, you have to develop your strategies, how or action plans, how to operate, what to do in different situations. For example, if situation is optimistic, you may plan that you will increase your production of your products or services. You may develop all facilities and so on, because the demand will increase on your products or services. In a pessimistic situation, you have to think how to save costs, maybe not produce and propose not profitable products or services, and so on. And a realistic scenario, it is something in the middle of that. At this slide, you can see only part of scenario, only beginning of scenario development when we use some inputs for scenario development. And you know, it is real example from Ukrainian market for beer producer in our market. And what is very interesting, I have to comment, when we tried to predict market growth few years ago, we used the history, the trends of the previous periods of time. And there were periods of time when beer market grew in our country, and market growth rate were nearly 3 to 7% per year. There were bad years when it was zero growth or even minus 20% of beer market in our country. And so on, so on, so on. And what I have to put your attention, when we developed this scenario, inflation rate in our country was very low, only few percent. So we predicted that in optimistic scenario, it may be from 0 to 1% inflation rate. And pessimistic, the most pessimistic our forecasts were about no more than 30% year inflation rate. But you know, before COVID situation, which is not so important and influenceable for beer market, there were a few years when we had military conflict at the east of our country, and due to this situation, 2 years, year by year, inflation rate in our country was the first year 25% per year, and next year 54% per year. So you can see that sometimes the situation may be unpredictable, and it is very hard to make any forecasts how situation may be developed. I think that due to these facts, Michael Porter proposed to develop minimum 5 to 6 different scenarios. You have to try to predict unrealistic as optimistic, so pessimistic situation, because what is the result of scenario development? The result is action plan, is a different strategy, how to react on the situation development in the market, and how to adapt to this situation. So it is really a good idea and recommendation to develop 5 to 6, minimum 5 to 6 different scenarios in order to be ready for the situation development in your industry. I think that business entrepreneurs, students are familiar with this model proposed by Michael Porter about 5 forces of competition in the industry. So I'll make very brief characteristic of this model. According to Porter, as usual, in 90% of all situations, when entrepreneurs make market or industry analysis, they analyze only existing competitors in our industry, in their business. But there are many other forces which are very, very influenceable on our businesses. First of all, we have to analyze how important may be the threat of new competitors' entry in our industry. Then we have to analyze how our suppliers and consumers may influence our business. And finally, we have to analyze the potential threat of substitutes, because as usual in the short period of time, substitutes are not competitors for us, but in the long period, as usual, our consumers may choose substitutes for our products or services. So we have to pay attention to all 5 forces, competitive forces in the industry. At the next slide, you may find very shortly information what are main variables which we have to analyze when we analyze the threat of each of these 5 competitive forces which may affect or influence our business activities. Additionally, about industry analysis using Michael Porter's methodology. First of all, it is a question about boundaries. What are the boundaries of your industry and of your market? For example, your company may operate, for example, in one small town or village, or it may operate in the province or in the whole country, or maybe it widely use export-import operations. So from one point of view, you have very clear to identify the geographical boundaries of your market, of your business, because, for example, if you operate in a very small, for example, city or village, all other companies which may be competitors for your business in the scope of the country, they are not your competitors because maybe you are only one producer or few producers in your limited territory. So it is very important to identify the boundaries of business and who are the closest your competitors in this market, in this industry. A few words about some developments of Porter's 5 forces method for industry analysis. A few authors proposed that according to economic theory, we know that there are substitutes and there are complements. And if substitutes are potentially, we have the threat of substitutes, we have analyzed a situation about complements for our products or services too. Why? Because those who produce and propose complements for our products or services, they may be very influenceable on our business. For example, if we analyze the market for pharmacy companies, if you go to your physician and he recommend you some, for example, methods how to buy any, for example, tablets and so on from this producer or from this producer, it is very influenceable for the pharmacy producers market. And there were a lot of other proposals how to develop this Michael Porter's model of market analysis. And maybe 10 years ago, Michael Porter published a big analytical article in Harvard Business Review, in which he analyzed all the proposals how to develop to improve his model of 5 competitive forces. And he argued that all these proposals are not about new competitive forces. They are only about some variables which are the part of these 5 unchanged competitive forces. So this model was proposed by Porter in 1980, so 40 years ago, but it is still very useful in industry or market analysis. And the next step in market analysis, it is strategic group mapping. This instrument is proposed again by Michael Porter. What is it about? What is the purpose of strategic group mapping? According to Porter, when you make industry analysis, you may analyze the whole industry or the whole market, which may include maybe hundreds of potential or existing competitors. If you operate in the local small market, it's not necessary to analyze maybe hundreds of your potential competitors. You have to make your analysis more focused on those competitors who are more close to you in your market, who may be more similar to your products and to your services by some dimensions. So he proposed very very simple, but very illustrative and very useful instrument to develop strategic group map. What is the idea? You have to identify two dimensions which you have to put in this at the ground of this matrix. These dimensions have to be very important from the point of view of competition and strategic success at your market. It is not list of recommended items which may be used as these dimensions. It depends on market, on industry, on product, service, and so on. But these dimensions have to be very important from the point of view of competition and strategy development. If you find these two dimensions, you have to find the place of each competitor in your industry in this matrix, and those companies which are situated closer to each other, they are situated or form the one strategic group of competitors. If your company, for example, is situated in this strategic group of competitors, it means that those companies which are situated in the same with you strategic groups, they are more similar for you by these dimensions. And yes, of course, they are the closest competitors for your company. So you have to focus all your attention for very clear analysis of all actions of your nearest competitors which are situated in one strategic group with you. It is recommended to develop not only one strategic group map, but few using different dimensions. Because when you use one dimensions, you may identify one list of the closest competitors. When you use another dimensions, you may find them that some competitors, closest competitors, are the same, but some are new. So it is a very useful instrument to make your competitor market analysis more focused on those who are more similar, more closer for you. Here you can see some examples of strategic groups. You may see that dimensions which are put at this, which are used at this matrix may be very different. They may be quantitative, they may be qualitative. They may be simple, for example, price and quality. It's very popular strategic map when you use one dimension price and another dimension quality. Here you can see that very complicated price, performance, reputation, such complicated dimension is used in this strategic matrix. Here you can see that strategic groups of competitors among banks is used and developed, and you can see that very different dimensions are used from one point of view. It is return on equity, it is qualitative dimension, but from another point of view, you may see that political and geographical situation is used when these strategic groups of competitors are developed. Here you can see Ukrainian Oil Companies Map of competitors. One dimension is about profitability, and another dimension is about the number of licenses which they use. This example of strategic group of competitors, it is Ukrainian beer market, beer producers. Situation is so it is about assortment and product facilities. Four biggest companies control nearly 94% of Ukrainian beer market, and there are a lot of other smaller companies in this market. You may find it is leading group of competitors and some few another groups. I want to pay your attention for such method which is used when we develop a strategic map of competitors. As usual, we have to put all existing and potential new competitors in this matrix. But if there are maybe hundreds of potential competitors in your industry, it is impossible to know very exactly situation when they may be situated in this matrix. In this case, we use such instrument. We develop additional one or maybe few groups of competitors and we name them others. For example, in this situation, it may mean that others small beer producers which have not very wide assortment and their product facilities are very, very small, for example. So finalizing about strategic mapping, I strongly recommend you to use this instrument in market analysis, because very often I may hear from my students or entrepreneurs in our country, for example, this statement: these few companies are our main competitors. How do you know this? Yes, of course, you operate in this market, you know situation in the market, but why do you think that these companies are your closest competitors? And when we try to analyze and develop this strategic map of competitors, we may find that situation is not so simple, and there are a lot of other companies which are situated in the same strategic group with our company, and we didn't pay any attention for them in the previous periods of time. And it is a very illustrative instrument which helps us to identify our main competitors which are similar for us, which use similar prices or market strategy or maybe other variables. And the biggest threat for our company is from these competitors who are in the same strategic group, who are more similar for us than other competitors. Additionally, I'll recommend you to use these consumers metrics in market analysis. What is the main idea? I have to pay your attention for the dimensions, variables of these metrics: subjective assessment of consumer value and subjective evaluation of the price. So you have to make an interview, you have to ask your consumers about key products or services of your company, and you don't ask about exact price or exact value of this product or service. You ask your consumers about their subjective assessment or evaluation. Do they think that your product is too expensive, or price is too high, or maybe low or in the middle level. And similarly about consumer value of your product or service. Is it high or low or middle? And it's recommended to ask your consumers not about your own product, but about the similar products of your nearest competitors. Then you take all these interviews, and they using them you may develop this consumers metrics. You may see that, for example, your consumers think that your product is situated at the point A, and other competitors' products are situated at the points B and C. And then you have to make some managerial decisions. Are you satisfied by this existing situation when your product is situated in this position in consumers metrics? Or maybe you want to change your subjective evaluation by your consumers of your product. And if you have to change, you have to identify what direction of movement in this matrix you have to choose. And the next step, you have to develop some actions, what to do in order to get the new situation in this matrix. So it is a very useful instrument, very simple, but very resultive and effective in order to make market research and to improve your market position. And could you please tell me how much time do I have? Because I may tell a lot about this topic.
Dr. Yelena, we will have 10 to 15 minutes.
10 to 15 minutes, yeah?
Yes. And that will be followed by question and answer round if students ask.
Yes, great. Thank you very much. Yes.
Would it be okay? Would it be okay with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Rakfendra. And about Porter's generic strategies. I think, again, that entrepreneurs and management students are familiar with this instrument. So very briefly about Porter's generic strategies. Why about these generic strategies? As pointed Michael Porter, after you conducted 5 forces analysis, developed strategic groups of competitors, as a result, on the basis of this market analysis, you may choose or develop one of successful competitive strategies. 2 opposite strategies. It is about cost leadership or differentiation. Cost leadership, when you propose some standardized product or service, but at the lowest prices comparing with competitors, and as a result with the lowest price. So you win the market by low costs and low prices. Another, the opposite attitude to competitive advantage, it is differentiation. When you don't think about low price, but you propose something different for your consumers. And very interesting, the third competitive strategy, focusing, because when you use cost leadership or differentiation strategies, they are oriented on very wide market. But when you focus from the very beginning on some market segment or maybe on some group of consumers, you may develop from one point of view product which may be highly differentiated for this group of consumers, but from another, at the same time, you may make this highly differentiated and focused product or service. You may propose it with the lowest priced, comparing with differentiation product. Because, for example, when you propose differentiated product, it may include, for example, 10 different features. But when you are focusing on the needs of your market segment or the group of consumers, you may propose, for example, only 5 specific features of this product, which is good and adopted for this market segment. And so you may save costs and do not add additionally 5 more features, differentiated features of this product. So it's very potentially very strong competitive strategy when you focus on your market segment or group of consumers. Yes, of course, it is not. It is impossible to use one competitive strategy during the all many years, maybe 20, 40, and so on years, because from one point of view, you have to have some prerequisites in order to use this any type of competitive strategy successfully. For example, when you try to be cost leader, you have to have, for example, big scale production line in order to make your production cheaper. If you want to be successful in differentiation, you have to have some very strong market research departments, research and development, and so on, in order to make your product really differentiated and valuable for your consumers. Next instrument, value chain, is also developed and proposed by Michael Porter. What is the main idea? You may make a cost calculation of cost on the key products or services of your company, and make this calculation according to the value chain. Inbound logistics, production line, marketing, sales, service, infrastructure, and so on. And what is very important, and then you have to compare these calculations of key products, of your key products, with the same calculations of your closest competitors. And what is very useful and important, any difference between your product or services and your competitors may be used potentially as your competitive advantage. For example, if you find that at some elements of value chain, you have cheaper production or any other function comparing with your competitors, you may use it as cost leadership, competitive strategy development. From another point of view, if you find that at any element of this value chain you spend more money and add more value, you may use this situation for development of differentiation or focusing strategy. So you have to compare all your products and services with the same of your competitors, and any difference may be used for the best of you. You may develop or cost leadership or differentiation or focusing strategy. Finally, about Porter's generic strategies, it's impossible to be successful using only one competitive strategy during a long period of time, because there are some risks. For example, you may be very successful in cost leadership strategy because your consumers are satisfied by cheap, standardized product, but at some period of time, your consumers may be interested not in cheap products or services, but in differentiated, and you may lose all your consumers and all your market. And the same situation with all other competitive strategies. Your competitors may be more successful than you in cost savings or in differentiation, and so on, so on. So you have to make market analysis, you have to analyze the needs of your consumers and actions of your and proposals of your competitors day by day in order to be first who find the maybe arising trend in changes in market situation, and if you will be first who find this change, you may use it for your best, for your excellent, for your business excellence. And my favorite may be author about strategic management and competitive analysis is Kenichio Maye. He is a very interesting person. His first education is nuclear engineering in MTI, Massachusetts Technological Institute, but then he was business consultant. He was a chief of Tokyo McKinsey consulting company office, and he published his book about the mind of the strategist in 1975, 5 years earlier than Michael Porter, but this publication was in Japanese language and it was not so well known all over the world, and only in 1982 he published his work in English, and it was really a business bestseller because this also has very interesting, not standard point of view on business, on competition situation. At this matrix, he proposed to use these 4 ways how to develop competitive, successful competitive strategy based on market analysis. He proposed to use key success factors in each industry to develop successful business strategy. So then relative advantage, which we talked about, we have to compare all our products with the products of our competitors and find weak sides of the products of our competitors, and also try to use all the strong sides of our own products or services. Very interested situation about aggressive initiative strategy. It is not only about technical innovations. It may be about organizational innovations. For example, well-known technology, just-in-time delivery of any inputs, components to the moment, to the assembly line, to the moment of their production. The history of this initiative was when one of top managers and owners of Toyota company, Japan automobile company manufacturer, went through the territory of the company, and he have seen the situation which thousands of people have seen before this during a long period of time. He have seen a very big buildings where inventories were put, and he thought, why this situation? Why we put a lot of money invested in this inventory? Why we use this large building for inventory? Is it any possibility to change the situation? And when he asked this question, why, finding the answer for this question, he invented this just-in-time organizational method of organization of production product. And finally, strategic degrees of freedom. When any entrepreneur, any businessman may influence at some inputs, at some processes in his production or services, and some factors are unchangeable. So if you have possibility to choose something, it may lead to a different quality of your final product or service. So two competitors may use different inputs, different technologies, different delivery system, and be very successful in consumers' needs satisfaction. So I think I may finish at this point. And finally, I have to repeat that why market analysis, market research is necessary in order to understand situation in the market and in order to develop appropriate competitive strategy in order to be successful at this market. Thank you very much for your attention. I think it's all for today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yelena. It was quite interesting presentation. Students, you can ask your questions. You can write your questions in chat box. Akhilesh, we can enable the chat box for everyone now. Akhilesh?
Yes, sir, sure, sir.
Okay. Students, if you have questions, you have the right time to ask it and get it clarified from the best of the expert in the strategic management. Akhilesh, did we enable? Anyone, if you have a question, you please type it in the chat box. Akhilesh, enable किया क्या हमने सबके लिए?
Yes, sir, I am already given the permission, sir.
Okay. Okay, there is one question in the chat box, Dr. Yelena.
Yes, thank you very much for your question. Yes, your question is about limitations. Yes, but I have to answer in such way. From one point of view, yes, of course, it's a good idea to use some external information, to ask some consulting company, for example, or market research company to make market analysis. Yes, of course, it is expensive and it may be limitation for any entrepreneur or new business. but at the same time, you may make it cheaper or for free if you try to make this analysis for yourself or with your colleagues. Because really there are a lot of information about any markets which is available for free, because we have any publications and analytics about markets. We have statistical information, government statistics, which is available for free. And the third way, you may combine information, sources of information. You may try to get information for free from from all available sources, and maybe you may involve some external consultants or advisors, maybe not for the whole market research, maybe for consultations for only some issues about your market. So I think it is not so really limitation.
There's a couple of more questions in the chat box, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Yes, about digital era and subjective question. Yes, of course, in digital era, it is good idea to use social media, internet, and other questionnaires to give questions to your potential consumers. And I think you may combine, of course, because from my point of view, from my experience, people who make market research, they highly evaluate so-named field research when you don't use only digital instruments, but when you make questionnaires, you take interview in the streets, in the supermarkets, and so on. I think it is possible to combine. And if you ask a person eye by eye physically, when you situated physically in the street or in the shop, answers may be not very exact, and the same situation may be when you use digital instruments. So there are some instruments which may make some suggestions how valuable is this information, and how is it exact, and is it true answers or not. Yes, about market dynamics. In fact, many big, huge companies have special departments, huge departments, analytical departments, which make market research on daily basis. If you work in a small business, it is harder to have a big number of market analytics in your company, but really it is very important, and at least one person have to use market research on the daily basis, because you are right, markets are very dynamic, and you have to analyze day-by-day situation. For example, information about sales. If you see any changes, negative, for example, changes in sales dynamics, you have to analyze what is the reason, why is it so. Yes, daily basis, nevertheless, big or small business.
That's true. We missed one question, Dr. Elena. That's quite interesting. Some lady Lavanya want to ask, what market research strategy would be the most effective, irrespective of country and city?
Yes, give me a moment, I'll read. So about market, about business growth and markets, how to grow and expand. You know, it depends on the industry and on the market and business. Because, for example, if you tell about a big company with a big potential to grow and develop in the industry which has high growth rates, it is one situation. As usual, it is not about the size of the company, it is more about industry growth rate. If industry grows, it is a good possibility for your company to grow at the same rate as industry grows. And it doesn't matter about the small market. About small markets, it is so named niche strategy. If you come into this, enter this market, the same situation. Market may be narrow, small, but its growth rate may be high. So I think that you have to more orient on the industry growth rate. Yes, interesting. Business fail. What next if market research help? I think it is, the answer may be connected with the previous question, because business fail. We have to analyze the reasons why business fail. If the problem was in the business, or the problem is in the market, in the industry. Maybe industry has no any possibility to grow and develop. Maybe industry is in the last life cycle stages. So it may be not any future for the business in this industry. Maybe it is a good idea to enter another market, another industry. And you know, it is very hard question about what are the reasons why business fail. There are a lot of analytical works and a lot of very different reasons why businesses fail. I think first of all, you have to analyze the reasons of business fail and then think what to do to try to develop in the same business and industry and market, or you have to try in another market and business. Yes, Dr. Bidyut, thank you for your question. Small business venture. Small business venture, it's a very specific situation. Why? Because these new small business ventures, they may enter or existing market, and they may form the new market. In this case, there are different types and objects of market analysis. When you enter the new business, you may use statistics and other information which is available about the situation in this business. When you create the new, new market, new business, it's a very hard task because, in fact, you have you have to develop business plan. You have to predict situation or how your new business, venture business will develop in the future. And this business plan is very important for investors. You, as usual, new ventures need money, inventors, and in order to be persuasive with inventors, you have to develop all business plan and predict all market success of your venture. Yes, it is a question. And market research, you have to analyze in a case of new business, new market, new industry, you have predict situation. Will your new business product or service, will it be successful, interesting for consumers or no? And you know, statistics among new ventures, it's not very high % of successful businesses because all your forecasts may be very realistic, but something may be wrong on the next stage. Maybe you may be too early in this market. There are a lot of historical examples when new companies, innovative companies, entered the market too early, when consumers were not ready for their products.
Dr. Yelena, if you allow, can I also share my views on this?
Yes, yes, of course.
Small business ventures. Dr. Vidyut, I belong to a city which is famous for, you know, it's very famous for exports, probably in the business. That business is called builder's hardware, like the kind of latches, handles, and these things. So I follow what I observe, that most of the small businessmen over there, they follow a kind of, you know, a differentiation strategy. Of course, not in terms of product or service, but in terms of craftsmanship. What is your idea? What you can do the best in comparison to the others, what they are doing in the same area? And that's how they make a space for themselves, right? And as Dr. Yelena said, identification of some specific needs probably for the small businessmen, it's very important. If they want to grow up and scale up their business, it is very important for them to understand and identify the specific needs of the society. If they can fix it, probably they can solve many of the problems. But that is true that small businessmen, they have a limited resources to go for the market research kind of things like other bigger companies are doing. But what my observation, and that seems to be a very strong observation, small businessmen, they develop a particular kind of craftsmanship. Somebody is very good at doing one particular thing. So if you want to do that operation, get done on your product or services, so you generally go to that, and that's how they make a space for them. So this I wanted to share. Thank you, Dr. Yelena. You can go to the next question, please. There are many questions.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, next question about demand. Oh, I'm sorry. About market demand. Doing market research, creating demand for product in market is essential nowadays. Yes, of course. I think nowadays, when we have COVID quarantine limitations, some businesses make a pause, stop their activities, so for example, in tourism, in traveling, and so on. But according to statistics in my country, such businesses as courier businesses, delivery, post services, they grew after this year. And if you think about creating some demand for such products or services which may be actual nowadays? Yes, it is possible. Is it?
Dr. Elena, I have a question.
Yes.
Ma'am, for young entrepreneurs to start up with don't want to take risk at this level because they have to invest too much. So it is better for them to do job work and then capture the market. It gives them the experience, it gives them the hold of the business, and it also gives them that how the complete business runs and whether they want to expand it on their own or they want to switch over. What do you suggest?
Yes, thank you for your question. Yes, I completely agree with you. And from my personal experience, a lot of our students, of graduate students, they firstly, they started their careers from existing business, from big companies, from monopolist companies, and then after they gained some experience, very often they started their own business, and as usual, when they use this way, their own business are more successful because they have some experience how to make business. Yes, I think it is good idea.
There are a couple of more questions in the chat box, Dr. Elena, but you can address any 2 questions of them because we have time limitations. So you can choose any 2 questions to answer. Rest, I'll divert you. If I find if students send me their questions through mail, I'll pass it on.
Those which are in chat, yes?
So Malviya, probably you can ask. Meanwhile,
Okay.
Dr. Elena, we have one faculty, Dr. Sanjeev Malviya. He wanted to ask something.
Yes, you're welcome.
Elena.
Yes, hello.
How are you, ma'am? And my congratulations to you. It has been a very informative session. We were all glued listening to the different competitive strategies which you were talking about. So that is what I want. That is what I wanted to say. Nothing as a specific question, but I just want to know which is the best beer brand in Ukraine. You did that market analysis for the beer segment, so that's why I'm asking.
Yes, please. About beer market, I'm sorry, please repeat the question.
I just wanted to know which is the leading beer brand at Ukraine.
Yes, there are 4 leading companies, which is 100% Ukrainian capital, and 3 others, they are international brands which come in Ukraine, and they bought beer producers which are situated in Ukraine. It is Sun in Brew, and I'm not ready to name others, but they are European transnational companies.
Carlsberg, I think, was also there. Okay. So if I in terms of competitive strategies, if I want to challenge one of the leading producers, what will be the best strategy in your opinion? Whether it is I should go for a frontal attack, a direct attack on the leading brand, or I should go for a flank or a flanking strategy. So what do you suggest?
It depends. First of all, it depends on the scale of the business, because we have a few examples of successful flank strategies, and you know that some transnational beer producers which have a huge fundings, financial resources, they entered our market, and during many years, for example, our national producer Abalone, it controlled, it was the main company in the market. It controlled more than 35% of the market, but new transnational companies, competitors, they entered the market and now they are leading producers. So if company has a huge financial resources, they may be very, very successful, but we have some examples of small niche companies which have not very little, very small market share, but they are successful in the local markets.
Okay.
Both strategies may be used.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your question.
My pleasure.
I think we have already exceeded the time limit, Dr. Elena. I will not take much of your time. If the student asks any further questions, I will shortlist them and will send you on the mail.
Oh, yes, thank you very much.
That's good. Thank you very much, Dr. Elena. With this, I would like to say thanks to you. The session was very interesting, particularly the PEST analysis, the detailing of PEST analysis, forecasts and scenarios, and then a couple of brands from the beer and the oil industry from the Ukraine market and the strategic group mapping. These all were very important input for the future and forthcoming managers to consider, while some of them are planning to go for the internship, maybe in the startups, or maybe some of them are planning for entrepreneurial initiatives. So with this, thank you very much for sparing time and to address our students and faculty members on this market research for entrepreneurs. It was quite interesting and knowledgeable. Thank you very much. And I also would like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, who has allowed us to have this opportunity to interact with international personalities like you. I would like to thank my faculty colleagues, Dr. Saxena, Dr. Malviya, and other faculties from the department. Last but not the least, I would like to thank for the patient listening to all the participants. And of course, they are very interesting questions, but because of the time limitation, we could not address all the questions. If you think students, you can mail your questions to me. I would divert it to Dr. Elena. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. And I would also like to thank my IT team. Akhilesh, thank you very much. Well done. You started in time and you finish in time also. Akhilesh,
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir.
thank you very much, Akhilesh, for your support. Thank you,
Welcome,
Dr.
sir.
Elena, once again. Thank you.
May I close the meeting, sir?
Yes, we
And
can close it.
thank you very much for your attention and a lot of questions which are very deep, and I think that my information was useful for you. Thank you very much
Certainly.
for your
certainly.
interest.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, bye-bye.